Hi Field Service Pros. Welcome to our Maxpert video series. My name is Colby Lavin. I'm a Director of Product Management here at ServiceMax, and today I want to talk with you about why mobile sync is so hard and how ServiceMax has designed Smart Sync to be the best performing mobile offline experience available today. Let's jump into your technician's day. This is a great way to start the discussion about what mobile sync means in the context of a technician. So first, what if our technician has a brand new iPad? What does mobile sync do for that person? Well, for a new iPad, first they need the application, and then they need to have all the data relevant to that technician and to their job, and all the data that configures the app so that it performs in the way that's optimal for that technician. So while there, that technician needs account information, contact information, parts, products, pricing, installed products. All that information has to be on that device when they're on site to get their work done. While they're there, that tech might take a photo. Maybe they're taking a photo of the installed product before they worked on it and after they worked on it to document what work was done. Once the work is done, technician can generate a service report and get a signature on that service report so that the work that's done is confirmed, and the company that the technician is working for can get paid for the work that was performed. So that document has to be shared back to the home office so they can start billing for it that same day. And next, when you're working with ServiceMax or any field service organization, what if you need to update your best practices? What if technicians aren't using a field, for example? You don't want it to be available to them so that they don't get confused by why it's there. Or what if your technicians maybe aren't updating data? You need to write some validation rules or some formulas to help them out. Things like this are all part of the configuration of the application. And once again, this is accommodated and accounted for using ServiceMax Smart Sync technology. So sync itself is really hard, and let's talk about what makes it so hard to provide some context about what it takes to get there. So first of all, workflows and processes are specific and disparate to tech groups. So depending on your organization, you might have some techs that are working on installations, some techs that are working on break fix, maybe some technicians that are working on preventative maintenance. Each of those use cases, for example, might require a different workflow. Well, we want to make those workflows only available to the technicians to which those apply. So that's one use case about why Smart Sync is so hard. How do we get the right workflows to the right people? User behavior and expectations are difficult to predict. So we've been working on sync for many years, and we're always surprised by what technicians do. A great example is technicians sometimes have a habit of tapping or over-tapping, maybe double tapping, on records when they don't need to. Well, in some applications, when you keep launching transactions over and over again, it can break the application. Well, we've encountered this, we've accounted for it, we've designed around it, and our Smart Sync works perfectly with conditions like this. Next, we don't know what needs to be synced until runtime. And this is perhaps one of the biggest challenges of a great sync engine, our Smart Sync technology, is that we're not taking an entire database that exists on the server, perhaps terabytes of data, and trying to squeeze it onto a mobile device. What we're really doing is at runtime, we're saying, what does that technician need on that day, at that instance, to be on their iPad, and only put that data on the device itself. So the download criteria are determined at runtime. That's a very hard problem. Next, we must have a purpose-built database. You can't design a database for online usage and someday come back and say, hey, it would be better if this was an offline database. You actually have to go back to scratch, start from the beginning, and design it for some of these use cases that I've already described. So in the cloud, we could have lots of data, terabytes of data, as I said. So these top three tables here, what if those are price books, for example? Maybe you're a global company and you have a different price book in each country your technicians operate in. So for this black price book, maybe I want all my technicians to have that price book. So in this diagram, Tech 1 and Tech 2, they would both get that price book. Maybe that's a US price book. Now what if Technician 1 operates in APAC, maybe Japan, and technician 2 goes to Europe and operates in, say, France. Well, through our Smart Sync technology, this orange price book table, which is specific to Japan, can go to Tech 1. The blue price book table, which is specific to France, can go to Tech 2, and we can account for that in our Smart Sync. So this is a download criteria for price books, for example. Well, next let's go a little bit more granular and look at this table itself. Now we're not going to just make tables available to different technicians. What if we want specific rows in tables to be available? A good example of this is maybe Tech 1 needs a certain set of installed products that are relevant to what that technician is working on, and Technician 2 needs a different set of installed products. Well, with Smart Sync technology, we will only send the installed products relevant to the technician's work to those specific technicians. Let me get into the details about the different types of sync that operate on mobile devices today. Let's start off with initial and reset. This is a sync that you would use, once again, for that use case we had for the new iPad, for example, where you are going to send all the data and all of the configuration metadata for the application to the technician so they can get started. This is a sync process that typically takes a little bit longer because it's the first download of all the data to the device. But once it's done, that technician's up and running and ready to go. Next, let's talk about our incremental data sync. So in our day for a technician over here, they went to the site, worked on a job, presumably got the work done, and sync occurred because the work that technician just completed, we want that data to be available back to the office. So when the sync launches, we are sending the work that the technician just did back to the office so that the office is up to date. One of the great things about Smart Sync technology is that it's not one directional either. Once again, when that incremental sync happens, we are going to first look at every record on the device, on the client device itself that has been updated, and we're going to make sure those get updated on the server. But during that same incremental sync, we are going to look at all of the data on the server that's been updated that's also on that technician's device and make sure that data comes back to the technician so that everybody is operating off the same data set. It's a very nice bidirectional incremental data sync that's part of the Smart Sync technology. Next, let's talk about configuration sync. So in our example over here, we wanted to update our best practices because we found a better way for our technicians to operate, to make them be more efficient, to make them be more efficient perhaps, or to make them not enter data they don't need to, or maybe to make them enter data. But we had to update our configuration to account for that. So using configuration sync, we can completely update the application or just pieces of it to once again make sure those connects are operating the way we want them to. This can happen in minutes. Next, let's talk about attachments. And we had two examples that we talked about earlier about attachments. One was when our tech takes a photo, and one is when our tech gets a signature off a service report. Those are both attachments to a work order, for example, to a record. So we see attachments as being important, but not as important as other data. So what if we had just dispatched a critical work order to our technician that we wanted that technician to be on site working on that customer's installed product in the next hour? Well, if we had 10, 20, 30 megabytes of attachments that we were waiting for, we might not be able to get that critical operational work order data down to the technician soon enough for them to be able to make that call. So for attachments and attachment syncs, it actually takes a lower priority to our other critical operational data syncs to make sure that technicians are always working on the most important jobs at the right time. Next, let's talk about location tracking. So there are many different ways that location tracking works through sync. If you think about a technician that has internet connectivity, while the device knows the technician's location, you can configure how often you want to grab that technician's location, and when that time point occurs, we send that location back to the server so that the office knows where that technician is. Well, what if that technician doesn't have internet connectivity? Great that a lot of mobile devices today actually have GPS capabilities in them. So as long as they can connect with a satellite, they can get the location of the technician. Since we don't have internet connectivity and the ability to send it back to the server at that instant, What we do is we store that location in a log file, and when we get interconnectivity back later, then we'll send the entire log file back to the server so that we have the complete history and record of where that technician was. So this could be really important if you want to optimize dispatching, so you know, for example, who the closest technician is. It could be important if you just want to keep track of where your technicians are going, make sure they're doing what you want them to do when they're doing it. Or for some of our customers, they want to know for historical purposes where technicians were so that they can always say, hey, we had a technician at this site on this date working on the product, and we've got a record to show for it. So these are some of the different types of sync that we offer today. And there are advanced features of sync too. So successive sync is one that we talked about earlier, and that is where technician is rapidly perhaps pressing a button, so they save a record and then try and save it again rapidly. Things like successive sync is an example of an advanced feature that allows for technicians to do operations like that without breaking the application and without compromising data integrity. Next, let's talk about data purge. So a lot of our customers have found that they want data to reside on the device for a certain amount of time. So maybe if I'm a technician and I've worked on a job today, my service manager wants me to have that work order on the device for the next month, just in case I have to do a repeat visit or there's a question about it. I've got that data on the device. And so with data purge, we can define we want data to reside on the device for an X amount of time, and after that, please remove it from the device. Purge it from the device. That's our data purge capability, part of sync. And next I want to talk about event window, what I think is one of the best features of our sync technology today. What an event window is it allows you to specify how far forward and how far back within a technician's calendar you'd like them to see the work that they need to work on. So maybe I want technicians to see all the work orders that they have for the next week and for the last week and no more. And everything that's within that event window has what we call a special status that applies to what we call advanced download criteria. Advanced download criteria lets you define at a very granular level how much data and what specific data you want the technician to have relevant to those work orders. And how did we do this? Well, we have 5 years of a big engineering team working on this. We learned a lot along the way. We've accounted for a lot of situations which we didn't foresee originally, and we're very happy. This is the most advanced sync technology available today. Thank you so much today for watching this video, and we hope you'll join us for the next one.